From the Bloodline to Judgment Day, WrestleMania 40 with The Rock, Triple H's booking has seen some of the biggest story arcs in recent years. And so many of them are still continuing today, and we're seeing them evolve. Some of the storylines have been absolutely fantastic, engrossing, have ups and downs, ebbs and flows, while others haven't really stuck the landing. We're gonna look at the good and the bad of Triple H's booking since he has been in charge with WWE, going over some of the main highlights. The first thing is going to be the saga storytelling of Triple H. He loves his big old sagas, doesn't he? The Judgment Day has been a massive story arc from, well, the beginning when we saw the formation of Judgment Day with Edge, and then Rhea added in, Damian Priest, then they went in with Finn Balor, and then they kicked out Edge, and then he went to AEW. It has evolved since then. We have seen R-Truth mixing it up with Judgment Day. JD McDonough added in, Carlito is in there, the breakup, the new Judgment Day. It has continued on for several years now, and for the most part, it's been pretty engaging. Senior Money in the Bank, multiple title wins across Judgment Day, keeping fans engaged. The evolution of Dominic Mysterio as a character has been really cool to see how his character has evolved over the years. And I think this is one of the great storylines that Triple H has been a part of that has contributed to. I think it has worked overall. You've seen the rise of all these characters. You've seen the breakout of Damian Priest, who went from a split personality character in Vince McMahon to a world heavyweight champion, whose world title reign wasn't the best by any means, but you know what? He came out of it even stronger and as a bigger babyface. Rhea Ripley went from a nasty heel that people despised, and then over time, she's beloved by the WWE universe. People love Rhea Ripley, and she's at the very top of the women's division in WWE. There's way more to tell with the Judgment Day, the inclusion of Liv Morgan. There is so much they can go all the way to WrestleMania 41. It's been a really good story overall when you look at it. Not perfect, but pretty enjoyable. The other one, of course, the Bloodline. Years now of the Bloodline. Now, to be fair, when the Bloodline storyline initiated with Wreck Everyone and Leave, Roman Reigns coming in, winning the title, being accompanied by Paul Heyman in his return, that initial run, he was still under the whole guidance of Vince McMahon. Now, we can't discredit the fact that Vince McMahon was involved in the initial formation of the Bloodline. There's multiple people working on this storyline for years now. But with Triple H firmly in control of the majority of the story, seeing the rise in the dynamic of Sami Zayn with the Bloodline and Roman's entire reign as champion, the Usos, the breakup, the turns, there are so many giant moments with the Bloodline storyline, the arc itself, that have truly worked, have created the moments of cinema, as everyone says with WWE. And sure, there were moments with Triple H's booking with the Bloodline that, you know what, kind of felt a little flat, where he had post WrestleMania 39, Roman retained the title, and it felt like it took a few more months for the story to pick up once again. And since Cody won at WrestleMania 40, a lot of fans will argue that they haven't totally loved Cody's whole story arc, but now that Roman Reigns has returned and we have the new Bloodline, it's becoming more interesting once again. And that's good storytelling, of having ebbs and flows and having the ups and downs within the story, and trying to book that for week-to-week television for years. That cannot be an easy thing. But it seems like with Triple H, for these saga stories, the long-term story arcs that he is telling, he seems to know what the destination is, and he's even alluded to that in interviews and press scrums where he said, we might know, or we will know what the end result is going to be of this thing, but we will change and adapt as we go. And I think that's one of the things we give him credit for here, is the ability with him and his team and the writers and so on, their ability now that Vince is not there, that they can pivot, that they can switch things up and move where they need to move, whether it is because of an injury, or the story isn't working, or the fans are turning on certain things, like WrestleMania 40 with Cody and The Rock and We Want Cody. There's a lot in there where WWE now with Triple H has the ability to listen better to the fans, to the feedback, and tweak where they need to, but still get to the end result that they're hoping to get. It'll be interesting to see when you have the likes of Jacob Fatu, who's really breaking out right now, how do they utilize him going through the rest of the year, and what his role is versus someone like Solo in this entire story arc. I mentioned WrestleMania 40 and how Triple H and WWE made those pivots, because they've talked about that in the WrestleMania 40 documentary. They brought that up several times, that it wasn't as clean cut once The Rock came in. And you gotta hand it to them. WrestleMania 40 main event, night 1, night 2 was a lot of fun. And night 2, it gave fans that payoff. You had this crescendo, this end game like Avengers moment where you had legends coming out, helping Cody Rhodes, the Bloodline, all of these characters, all of it culminating in the main event of WrestleMania to make it feel larger than life. And that's what you want from WrestleMania, is the spectacle. And that was kind of next level. And they pretty much stuck the landing when it came to that final moment and Cody becoming the new Universal Champion. You were able to put a bow on that entire story arc, at least that chapter of it. And now we go into the next piece. WrestleMania 40 is a good testament of Triple H booking an entire WrestleMania, his entire card the way he wants. Not every match stuck the landing. Not every match was amazing. Jimmy and Jay didn't hit. I thought it was very flat and the build wasn't there. But I think for the giant story arc of the Bloodline, WrestleMania 40 was a lot of fun. Okay, another win for Triple H's booking, we're gonna look at the Wyatt Six. Uncle Howdy, the character, Bo Dallas coming in, and this formation of this Wyatt Six faction. Triple H loves his factions. The Wyatt Six so far have been a very interesting group. Their debut, the lead up, all the little teases, you knew it was coming. With all these little teases that Triple H likes to do, planting the seeds along the way, we're starting to see what it's going to look like with Bo Dallas as the main figurehead character in this faction, and it's interesting. And it's different than how they did Uncle Howdy before, and I think it could have a lot more longevity and legs because they are going to be treated more like real grounded characters that have this representation of the Wyatts and everything and the spectacle behind it. It could end up being a very good mixed blend between the whole cinematic theatrics of it all and the grounded wrestling nature of it, where Uncle Howdy's going to get in the ring and he's going to have some matches. But bringing the characters back with the idea behind it of the Wyatts, of Bray Wyatt, what the template was, the paying homage to Bray Wyatt, to Wyndham Rotunda, is excellent. And that everybody involved creatively have it in their best interest, and they're doing it in a way that is tasteful, that is paying homage, that's evolving these characters and these superstars, and allowing a lot of other superstars to get time on TV and do a lot more. And that's the other piece here. Factions. Triple H loves his factions. Since Triple H firmly took over, we have seen more and more factions on WWE TV. It's not always a great thing because you could see the likes of the LWO, Final Testament, it doesn't really work that great. However, the positive is that you're getting more wrestlers on TV, more characters to develop, and a lot of the times factions are cool. Like, they could introduce trios titles, they never will, but you get a lot more people the opportunity to shine, to break out, and to develop relationships and dynamics with multiple people within their group and against other groups. Okay, another win here for Triple H is going to be the return of CM Punk. Because of the nature of WWE and the business changing with Vince McMahon gone, we saw CM Punk return to WWE. I'm wearing a Punk shirt right now because it's just a big old mark. But we've got Punk coming back at Survivor Series was a big deal. The stars aligned, and by all accounts from the interviews of Triple H and CM Punk, you can hear from them that things changed, that the dynamics backstage, the people have changed, and that it's not the old way. And that seems to be something that CM Punk Phil Brooks really likes, is the environment now versus what he left before. I think it is proving that because of what we see on week-to-week television and how Punk is utilized. Despite the big injury that he had that made them pivot at WrestleMania, things are clicking. And the Drew Punk feud is outstanding. And when you roll the tape back and it was initially going to be Seth and Punk, Drew wasn't really in the picture. And since then, we've had a really fun ride so far, and we've had one match with a strap match coming up at the time of this recording. They're utilizing CM Punk in a great way, and as best they can when it comes to having just promos, building a story with Drew McIntyre, and again, that long saga storyline, whether if that is your thing, it seems to be working pretty well. People are entertained, they're interested with it, and now that Punk is cleared, you're getting more matches now, where we're having the second PLE match with him. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what they do with Punk over the next couple of years as he continues to wrestle with WWE. And the Punk-Drew storyline as a whole, again, like everything, it's not perfect, but there's been a lot more highs and positivity and positive notes coming out of it than lows. When we talk about WrestleMania and, you know, the PLEs, and you've got all this positivity behind WWE right now, it really showcased in the attendance and the PLEs themselves. You are getting record-breaking attendances at WWE shows. Raw and Smackdown, you are getting the PLE events, you're getting more international events. WWE is expanding the business right now with the merger and TKO and all that. It's really moving things forward. And the storytelling has been better overall, in my opinion, and people are enjoying it more, and they're reaching the wider audience that you like to see. It's cool when they do the UK events. It's cool when they go overseas and they go to Australia. The crowd's different, the dynamic is different, they cheer louder, you get a lot more energy. And the thing with WWE right now is there's more energy. You can tell that, and I can tell it myself by going to several live events, going to Money in the Bank, going to Smackdown. I can feel that there's more energy in the crowd, it's more lively, and things are clicking a little bit better. But not everything is perfect. Some of the stuff with the booking and how WWE is right now, not everything is sticking that landing. One of the things that isn't working right now under Triple H, the women's division, women's booking overall hasn't been great. You got to look at things like Bayley, who had a cool story winning at WrestleMania, but after that, not doing a whole heck of a lot. Women's tag division, kind of a mess, as always, where it's really hard, where they have Jade and Bianca as champions, and then they switch the title belts, and it's kind of a focus, and then it's not. On Raw, the World Heavyweight Championship on the women's side is all wrapped up in one character, and Rhea Ripley, and now Liv Morgan, and that's it. And nobody else is really doing a whole heck of a lot. Unless they're fighting for tag titles, the women aren't doing too much. You need mid-card women's titles. Maybe that's too much on TV and there's too many belts, but I think that you need to be doing more personal storylines. You get stuff like the Bloodline, which is really cool. You get stuff like Judgment Day, which is really cool. I think more of the women need more focus and more stories, whether it be in factions or it's going to be in individual stories outside of the titles, to give them more opportunities, because it's not the biggest focus. And I said the women's tag division is kind of it's kind of iffy. The men's tag team side, also not a great thing. They separated the tag team titles at WrestleMania, which I think was the smart thing to do, but we're not seeing a whole lot of focus with tag team wrestling. Sure, we're getting cool matches of DIY and the Street Profits. The Bloodline have the tag team titles, so that's interesting. But across the board, not really focusing in on tag team wrestling, and that the stories and the cool stories you could tell and the dynamics between the teams and the factions, it's not really a big focus. Miz and R-Truth had the tag team titles since WrestleMania. They didn't do too much with that. Now they're back on Judgment Day. Judgment Day for the tag team titles, they're not feuding with anybody directly. It's just kind of the flavor of the week. I think if they have more focus on tag team wrestling, it could help round out these shows, especially SmackDown. That's the other thing too. With Triple H, shows are a little off balance, if you ask me. Maybe you disagree, and that's okay. But for me, Raw feels like the A show, as it had been for years. It feels like the big primary show. It is longer, it's bigger, but with 3 hours right now under Triple H, I'm enjoying it way more than I enjoy SmackDown for 2 hours. There's way more going on, it feels like, in terms of storylines on Raw. And SmackDown, I feel like I can just get the highlight reel. I'm gonna get a Bloodline Cody segment and LA Knight. Yeah, and that's like it. And then don't feel like I get very much else out of SmackDown. Versus Raw, I'm much more intrigued in, and I think there is a little bit of imbalance between both shows, if you ask me. Okay, another thing that it's working and it's not. The aesthetics, or I guess the promos, the way things are shot, there's some goods and bads in here. The goods, that new camera angles they like to do backstage where, like, you know, they follow the superstars to go from the very back. They might start a promo with Jey Uso backstage, and then it leads through the curtain, and then he's out for his match. And they do that a lot. They're doing a lot of it. It becomes too standard, in my opinion, where you don't want to do it every single night, but it's cool. It's refreshing, it's new, there are new camera angles in the ring, it's shot a different way, it has a more sports feel to it. Those are all good things. But the inherent promos, the segments, the backstage interviews, all of that is still kind of left over of Vince, where it hasn't evolved enough. I want to see more. I want to see more changes to backstage environments, to how one-on-one confrontations are backstage. Instead of just interviewer and wrestler and then enter in, you know, the bad guy to the side off the camera, let's change that up. I think they need to keep evolving it, and we might see that when Netflix comes out with Raw, and maybe we do see more changes. Maybe there is more cursing, maybe there's more blood, maybe it's getting a little edgier. It's not that that's all necessary, but it can help, you know, distinguish the shows, the characters a lot more if they have more freedom to work with. But I think they still need to work on how things are shot. I love things like back in the day in TNA where you had fly on the wall camera angles, where you had people backstage and they were in a room in the locker room and they were talking and the camera's peeking in on them in that conversation. The camera isn't just right there in front of them. So I think that they still need to modify and evolve kind of how things are shot and done from a production side. And the last one we have on the list, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, thank you so much for joining us, and hit subscribe if you like content like this, and hit a like on the video because it does a lot for us to grow. The last one on the list is going to be with the PLEs, the pay-per-views, the premium live events, and the number of matches we get. This is, again, good and bad. On the good side, this is like takeovers from NXT that were under Triple H, where they feel like they matter. Every single match is given a lot of time and a lot of room to breathe and tell really big stories. And you're getting big, long matches, big moments, and it allows things to breathe. It's a really good thing. But with every PLE now, you're getting like 5 to 6 matches. And for some people, it's kind of like, man, you could have done a lot more. Instead of just the world title and a mid-card title and then the story matches, man, they could have added in, you know, the tag team titles in there if there was a story going on, or they could have added in another women's title match in there too, but they don't. They hold those off, and I get it, but then they end up cycling it where it's one title off and one title on, and a lot of that is on the women's side too. I would love it if they increased that from time to time, where we get 6, 7 matches on a card. I don't need the old days of 10 matches and just getting into silly business where it's like an 8-hour show. Love the timing of 3 hours for a PLE. You're in, you're out, but it'd be cool if they could add in 1 or 2 matches when it matters, based on the story, and they play with it a little bit more. Because a lot of the times now they're building the go homes for PLEs, like the Smackdown show. They'll have a title match, which is cool. They'll do like a tag title match, a mid-card title match, and then they have the PLE. So you're giving something for the crowd there on Smackdown for the go home, and then the PLE event, kind of like they're almost melted together as a big super show. That's all good, but I feel like the PLEs, they could do a little bit more in terms of the quantity of matches, but you don't want to mix up the quality too much. But how has Triple H's booking been for you? Good? Bad? What stands out? And if you guys want to talk more WWE, and let's talk about Cody Rhodes for a second here, and why his title reign, it may not be working anymore for some fans, click this video right here to find out. Have a great day. See ya.